Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to this session on how do you get multiple full fellowships and land your dream job in the US. With me, I have Krishna. Krishna, welcome to the session.
Hi and hi all. Good morning.
Yes. So let me introduce and talk about what we'll discuss during this session. It's going to be a fairly long session. We have a lot to discuss. We're going to start from Krishna's uh, very first encounter with e-GMAT, where he was struggling with his GMAT preparation. We're going to briefly talk about how he struggled with the GMAT to going to that 720. We're going to talk about his MBA application, where Krishna received 14 rejections to actually then receiving four fellowships and one partial fellowship or 150% fellowship. And then we're going to talk about his initial struggle at Georgia Tech, then building his profile such that he had potentially multiple offers lined up. So long session. And we're going to talk about multiple emotions over here. And for me, the reason why I want to do this, the reason I'm really excited about this session is because I think whatever the journey that Krishna has gone through, a lot of you will likely go through a portion of it, if not the entirety of it. And there's a lot to learn from it. So Krishna, welcome once again. And let's start with this. Let's go back to that 2018, 2019 frame where you were preparing for the GMAT, and let's talk about your struggle, and that's that eventual 720 score.
Yeah, initially I did a lot of mistakes during my preparation.
Actually, let's just put that quote up, Atul, which Krishna had put in over there, where he said, "It took me almost 2 years and 4 attempts, along with many instances of blah 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 blah." Excuse me. Yes, go ahead, Krishna.
Yeah, I did a lot of mistakes during my preparation. So if I were to say like what were my top three mistakes, I would say like firstly practicing without knowing the concept. If you do so, you will exhaust all the materials but won't see any improvement. It's the kind of mistake I was making. The second mistake that I made was attempting questions without having any kind of time strategy or any strategy. You will surely run out of time, but you will not be able to answer all the questions. And third mistake that I did was practicing randomly and freely available material. It hasn't made my preparation complete, but also I did not have any good practice benchmark. So with these three mistakes, I was constantly struggling to see a performance improvement. My verbal score was at 24, and I exhausted all the available free resources on
You
GMAT
practice
Club.
on GMAT Club. You just done thousands and thousands of questions. You practiced over 2 years.
I practiced every available resource that I know, every freely available resource, I would say,
Okay.
but I haven't seen any improvement.
Why do you think
And
that's the case?
because I'm practicing randomly, so there is no clear metric or analytical score to track my performance. So while I was resourcing all the materials in GMAT Club, I saw an advertisement for e-GMAT. I attended webinar like from RC. I like its strategy and concept. So I thought like I tried every other resource.
You
Why
still
can't I
remember that
try?
you attended an RC webinar, man. That's web memory. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was like I tried every other resource. Why can't I try e-GMAT? So I subscribed for the verbal portion of it, and I would say like I love the course, and I can understand like why I'm not seeing any improvement because I don't know the concept, I don't know strategy, I'm just shooting in the dark. So through e-GMAT, I very much loved its concept, the strategy, and through all those resources, it helped me to track my improvement, see my improvement, and finally increase my verbal score from 24 to 37.
Your quant was always there. You had a Q50 always.
Yeah, my quant is always at Q50.
Okay. Okay. What sacrifices did you do? You said you did sacrifices. There was a lot of frustration. There was depression. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I sacrificed more than 50 plus weekends preparing. So every day I used to prepare for at least 3 hours. So whenever my friends call for movie, outing, or any kind of vacation, I have never gone to those. For 2 years, I have been preparing, but I haven't seen any improvement.
Okay. So you, prior to getting that score of 720, you also had a score of 680. You applied with a score of 680, and you received you said 14 rejections.
Yeah, with 680 score, I applied to almost 3 to 4 colleges,
Mhm.
and I was waitlisted for Texas A&M and Arizona State University. It was during my first round of applications,
First round of applications, which was a year prior.
year prior. Yeah.
So you had the same profile, score of 680. They Texas A&M rejected you.
Yeah, they Texas A&M and Arizona State University. They
Oh.
waitlisted me for 2 to 3 months and finally rejected me.
Mhm.
So when I analyzed back, I noticed that they waitlisted me means they like me, they like my profile. But something is missing, which is reducing my competency. And for me, it's clearly evident that my GMAT score of 680 is holding me back.
So I think what's interesting is for people over here who don't know the entire story, both these schools admitted you with a full scholarship with that 720 score. So
Yeah,
it's the same person, same profile.
yeah. With 680 score, I applied in round one. I got rejections.
Hmm.
In the next year of applications, I improved my GMAT score to 720. I applied in round three. They gave me full fellowship.
Wow. So that is a big thing. Now your story is really where a story of hope prevailing in the face of rejection. I mean, 14 rejection, not one, not two. We talked about just two, but 14 rejection. You still carried on. What
Yeah.
what pushed you to really just continue preparing for the GMAT, continue applying? Because 40 rejections is a lot. A lot of people would have said, "Hey, I'm going to give up."
Yeah, I had a very strong desire, like I need to achieve something. I need to achieve my dream score of 720. I need to get an admit, and I need to achieve my dream job in my dream organization. I have that burning desire. Every day when I sleep, like it always fuels me, and I used to think about it every time. So it endured me during all the struggles, all the failures, and all the hardships. Also, I would definitely want to say, like, one of the motivating videos for me was like the Nishant video which e-GMAT did.
Okay. So the guy who got
Uh,
into Columbia.
yeah. So I was at the time watching the webinar with Nishant, and it also motivated me. Like one day I will be on the opposite side. So that burning desire kept me motivating, and today I was at the opposite side of the table.
Okay. Uh, now, your case also shows demonstrates that one can get admission in round three. Not just get admission, get scholarships. When you were applying in round three, did you expect that to happen?
I expected that I can get a full fellowship, but at the time I was like, okay, I will try in round three. If not, I will have always a fallback option, like I will try next year. But when I'm applying in round three, I gave my full potential to apply for it.
And you had a strategy, right? We were talking earlier. You said you did not want to go for the Harvards or Stanfords. Your strategy was to really say, I'm going to get a good GMAT score. I'm going to get a 720. Apply to I won't call them tier two. You call them tier two. I said no, 1.5 schools. When I look at Texas A&M, Georgia Tech. So can you explain what was the reasoning behind that strategy? Where did you get that strategy from?
Um, yeah, so for me, like getting the 720 scholarship, I know like I can get getting a 720 GMAT score, I can get full scholarship. I don't want to take any loan. It will increase my pressure and it will ruin my business school experience.
Mhm.
So I have my savings and I can continue with them if I get a full scholarship. So with that strategy in mind, my aim is to get a 720 GMAT score, get into the colleges of my choice, and then prepare hard for my dream companies.
Okay. So it was like, let me get to a good school, let me not have any loans, and
Yeah,
and then I'm going to graduate. I'm going to struggle. I'm going to work hard to find a job, but I'm going to get
yeah,
there, and I'm going to. So did you choose these colleges by while keeping that dream company in mind, where you said, okay,
yeah, definitely. I researched more about it and I selected these colleges because of the choice of my dream companies.
so what were your dream companies?
Yeah, like Amazon, Apple, or Dell, Microsoft. These were my dream companies.
Okay. And so you chose these schools because they're good engineering schools, sister schools, and so which means you
Yeah,
had these companies that were recruiting over here.
yeah, definitely.
Okay. That's very. I mean, so one of the things which learnings which is there is have a plan. Don't just go behind where everyone's going. Sometimes it pays and it pays handsomely um, to really take the off beaten path and be willing to struggle.
Yeah. It's obviously like the higher the rank school you go, the more opportunities you have. But at the same time, you will also have more depth on you. So
Mhm.
it's a balance between how much are you willing to struggle more and how much are you willing to take loan. There's a fine balance that
Okay.
everyone has a comfortable point at.
And then your story shows that, as long as you're willing to take on the challenges, as long as you execute on those challenges, you can truly get to your dream job. I mean, you have an offer from Amazon for the pathway leadership development program, where um, you'd really be managing 200 people the moment you graduate, and you have a pathway to truly becoming a director within the company within 5 years or so. So, we're going to talk about this. But let's kind of go back to those four acceptances, the four full fellowships that you got, and the one partial. Can you just talk about which all schools gave you a full ride in round three, and then how did you narrow it down to Georgia Tech? So, what was your thought process over there?
I got full fellowship from Michigan State University, Ally Broad, Texas A&M, Georgia Tech, and Arizona State University,
Hmm.
and a 50% scholarship from Boston University. So everyone will have their own metrics of choosing the school. For me, I have top three metrics. The first metric is like it's the ratio of nearest job market by competing universities, and secondly, the possibility of doing
Explain,
another.
explain that. Nearest job.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah. For example, if you take a school in Midwest, the nearest job market for international students is Chicago.
Mhm.
And when you look at the competing universities, there are Kellogg, University of Chicago, University of Michigan, Kelly, University of Minnesota,
So
Michigan State
Boston is a
University.
tough place then. Boston
There
has
are,
a lot of competing universities, for example.
yeah, Chicago has a lot of competing universities.
Yes.
Whereas if you look at Atlanta, it has two competing universities, Georgia Tech and Emory.
Hmm.
So the odds of getting more job opportunities at Georgia Tech seemed more to me. It's my own metric and it's my own opinion.
It's a simple probability. It's a logical probability metric. You say, okay, if you have 100 jobs, two competing universities, and if I'm one of the top guys, if I get a scholarship, my likelihood of getting a job there makes sense because if they are recruiting locally.
Yeah, and most people don't know. Like I don't know. Like when I'm in India, is that in US most of the recruiting happens locally. A company in Atlanta wants to hire students in Atlanta only. So I use that probability ratio.
Okay. Then the second metric.
Yeah, the second metric is the possibility of doing another degree in data science. I'm equally excited to learn more about the data science skills.
Hmm.
And Georgia Tech and Arizona State University provided me the opportunities. And third one is the overall fees and the STEM possibility. When I compared Arizona State University and Georgia Tech provided me more fellowship that I can do for the two degrees with for free.
So, how much was that fellowship amount? If
It might overall sum up to 120K.
120K. And at ASU actually is the Harvard of Arizona, I tell people, because I am myself in Phoenix. I'm about 20 miles away from ASU. And so with regards to job opportunities, yes, good recruitment over here. You also got a full ride from there, but yes, the dual degree part is something which makes sense. Now, you did not get a full ride from Georgia Tech initially. Do you want to talk about that
Yeah,
story?
yeah. Initially, they offered me a 50% fellowship,
Hmm.
and I wrote a negotiation letter.
Hmm.
So one thing that most people might not know is like Even if a college offers you full fellowship, and if you try to negotiate, they can convert it to a full fellowship. It happened with me and one of my other friend at Georgia Tech and few other friends at different universities. So I wrote a negotiation letter which comprised of a few parts like firstly I priced the school, a little bit of price will go way long. Secondly, I showed them like what are the strengths that I could bring to that school. And thirdly, I attached a competing offers from other universities. Like I have full fellowship from the other universities. So when I wrote a letter, they provided me full fellowship within one day.
So that
It's
the
kind,
turnaround time was 1 day, 24 hours.
yeah, yeah, because my recruiting cycle was way long. It happened on May 5th or May 6th, I think, which might be very quite long for the recruiting cycle.
Okay. Okay. Um, the other thing, which is one of the things that you say, you talked about when you shared, okay, what do you bring to the school? You also showed your the link to your debrief, which I think we can share. And I remember
Yeah, yeah.
you sending this email over where it says, and this is the email where you said on 7th of May,
Mhm.
where you said, hey, initially you been admitted to 50% scholarships, then you shared a link with your to your story, which was the GC debrief over there.
Yeah.
So what role do you think that debrief had in pushing the
I
case?
think it had a very good pushing story because uh, at that point of time, maybe in 2019, colleges are looking for students who have high resilience because the job situation for international students is so tough that you cannot expect to get your dream job, or at least one job within a single attempt. You need to try for multiple attempts, you need to endure more failures and to get a dream job. So that story kind provided me that I still have a resilience in me, that I can endure multiple failures and achieve my dream goal.
Okay. Okay, that's good to know. I absolutely agree. I think as I've spoken with certain so one of the questions that we do when we talk to directors at business schools is to say, how do you perceive second attempts or third attempts? And because we know there are certain B schools who would take look at your first attempt, would actually average out your score. There are very few of those, and I cannot name those.
Yeah, yeah,
But then most of them would say that you take on uh, uh, your highest score, regardless of whether it's your second attempt or your third attempt. And we've seen that because I've seen our students, succeed in fourth attempt or so and get into Kellogg, PFP Chicago, so on and so forth. So one of the admission directors during this conversation, he mentioned, he says, sometimes when you look at this, we actually see, especially when we see score improvements after a struggle, we look at this as a positive character trait. Because
yeah,
this guy is, as you rightly said, he is in the face of adversity, he's not going to give up, which is a huge thing because we, as a business leader, you're going to face adversity.
yeah, definitely.
So let's talk about. We have this question: how do you build your profile? So let's talk about your background. You you worked in BHEL
Yeah.
and you were
So,
a program manager. So let's talk about your background and then how did you build your profile?
so I studied in a government university and I was working in a semi-government organization. So my communication skills were not so strong. The moment where I entered US, my communications were skills were so poor that
No, no.
whenever
I think let's go back to the profile for the
yeah,
MBA,
profile.
for the MBA application.
Oh, sorry, yeah,
Hey, I
yeah,
know you
got
were
it.
now all about getting a job, but
Yeah,
let's
okay,
go
got
back
it.
to yes.
Yeah. Uh, so at BHL, uh, after graduation, I took the GATE exam. I was a topper in GATE exam, so I got into BHL. And in BHL, I did a lot many roles. I mostly was in project management. I was in warehouse operations. So when I'm building a profile for supply chain and operations, I studied more about supply chain and what are the activities I did close to supply chain. So no matter what your official designation was, the kind of things that you do close to supply chain matters a lot. So if I did something about purchasing or procurement, I considered myself as a procurement officer, like I'm purchasing and making decisions. So I built my profile similar to the supply chain and operations, and I thought about all the activities that I could do in future or I may have been doing. So I imagine myself in the shoes of a supply chain officer
So,
and build my profile upon it.
and I looked at your profile on LinkedIn. You said you did projects which were up to 50, $60 million or so while you were at BHEL as a program
Yeah.
manager. And so how did handling, that kind of volume or that dollar amount of I don't know, should I call it material or should I call it transactions help?
Uh, you can say like they are both the material and transactions. We supply the material, customers will make the payment.
Hmm.
So it kind of provided me the managerial skills. I need to be interacting with lot of cross-functional teams. So I definitely has included it in my resume. It is a positive trait. I have been interacting with engineering, procurement, the warehouse, logistics, and the customer management, and I'm handling multiple projects at the same time. So I know how to prioritize projects.
Mhm.
So all the positive skills required for an operations officer, or like the process improvement, the cross-functional leadership, the metrics for development, and any kind of new innovations. I included all those skills in my resume to while submitting to an MBA program.
Okay. So then I think this is a very good segue into the question, the first question that you for Georgia Tech. Describe how your experiences, both professional and personal, have led you to the decision to pursue an MBA at Georgia Tech. So how did you link these experiences to really say, hey, Georgia Tech is the right school?
Yeah, I would say like not only Georgia Tech, while applying to any school, will have three parts according to me. The first part is my past, and the second part is my future, and the third part is how a university can help me to bridge them.
Hmm.
So I said like, hey, I have these experiences and skills that are required in supply chain domain,
Mhm.
and my future is I want to further enhance those skills.
Mhm.
I have these skills in mainly in manufacturing background, but I
Mhm.
want to have a broader view of skills across multiple technology background and pharmacy background or across multiple backgrounds.
Mhm.
And I believe that the resources provided by Georgia Tech will help me to connect those dots and act as a very good bridge between them.
Did you point out which resources?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So while writing to any university, the research plays a very big role.
Hmm.
Like for Georgia Tech, it was mostly the connections in tech industries. When someone looks at the people who have been graduated at Georgia Tech and who is working presently right now, more than 70% of them are in tech industry. So those connections, those alumni connections will help me to connect with industries and to better understand what they're trying to do. Also, the resources provided by Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech has a very good practical experience courses.
Hmm.
I can connect with industries and I can work for them for a semester long as a part of my course project. Those resources are definitely helpful for
So
me.
you mentioned those things over there. Okay.
I mentioned those things and
Okay.
other things like which can help me to personally improve myself. Like there is one mentor coaching, there is one leadership coaching, who will connect me with me on one to one and will help my leadership skills, my communication skills, and my personal development.
So you researched the programs that the school offered. Did you also talk to students at school prior to?
Yeah, talking to students is very most important because they can tell you like what are the resources that are actively being used
Hmm.
and what are the strengths of an university and what are the weaknesses of the university,
Okay.
so you can have a better idea of like how to put yourself to better leverage the strengths of the university.
Okay. Now, while you were applying at this point, how many years of experience did you have? I mean, how old were you when? If there's another question about was GMAT applicant, I think you didn't take the GRE, you just took the GMAT, right?
Yeah, because I have 7 years of experience.
Hmm. Okay. Um, so then, what did you discuss as your short and long term career goals? Just continuing from that thought, which was the second question. Discuss your short term and long term career goals and how Georgia Tech is the best suited. We talked about how Georgia Tech was a good fit for what you bring, but yeah, short term and long term career goals. What did you put in
Yeah,
there?
my short term goal, I said it like I want to work as an operations manager or supply chain manager in technology firms. in like Amazon or Apple.
Okay.
That was my short-term goal. Like getting into a tech company is my short-term goal, and my long-term goal is to become a director of that company, handling the global operations for that company.
And you're well on that right now. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is third question, and because I want to really go towards some more interesting stuff, experience at school. The third question is interesting: is list 10 facts about yourself that will help your future classmates get to know you. What do you think is the purpose of this question, and how did you approach it?
I would say like this question does not have any right or wrong answers. Just be true to yourself. They just want to know you on a more personal basis. Like how does this person will be, and I don't think they will make any decision based out of it, but they are much more curious to understand more about you.
Okay. So how did you approach this? What did you write in this question?
So I had my first fact like I'm a strong, resilient person. At that point of time, I have endured all my failures. So that was my first point. And my other points included like I like hiking, I like helping other people, I like cooking, and I like playing sports.
Got it. Okay, so these were very, very generic,
Yeah,
but things that were true to you, that
that.
showed you who you were. Let me just look at some of the other questions over here. Let's talk about your interview. You were called for a second interview, also by Georgia Tech. So walk through your interview experiences, and talk about both the first and second interviews and how were they
Yeah.
different. What do you think were the purposes of those interviews?
So I applied in round three in maybe in January.
Mhm.
So I was called for an interview in mid February.
Mhm.
So it was a normal business school interview, like some behavioral questions and how do I fit more closely to the school.
Mhm.
And in mid of March, they put me on wait list. So I was on wait list till the end of April, and during April 20, they called me for an interview, which was a surprise because I thought like by end of March, most business schools will close their application for international students.
Mhm.
So they again called me for interview on April 28th.
So by the way, this is also a myth. This, this is where a statistic becomes a fact, which rarely there are a lot of exceptions. Like a statistic, which is, hey, there aren't that many admissions available in round three, started to become a fact, or it's been a fact. Yes.
Yeah, so my second interview was more similar to the first interview, but I thought like why they called me is that they kept me on wait list, so they like me, but they want to make sure that I am a good fit to that school.
Mhm.
So I think my application in round three made me to call for two rounds of interviews.
Mhm.
So they want to make sure like I will definitely be a good fit for the school and I can bring upon my positive strengths. And after my interview, they gave the decision within 1 week.
So that was the 50% scholarship first.
That was a 50% scholarship. Yeah,
And then you really send them a letter with this thing, and that's within a day they change it to 100% scholarship.
100% scholarship. Yeah.
So tell me this. I mean, I'm just looking at you as an individual. 14 rejects, three fulfillers. So I'm on that 6th of May when you haven't received that 100% scholarship, right? From Georgia Tech. You have Texas A&M and ASU with 100% scholarship right there.
Actually, ASU gave its admit letter on May 9th, 3 days after I got my Georgia Tech.
Okay, but Texas A&M was there, and
Yeah,
then you also had one other school which
Michigan
had
State University.
Michigan State University, Broad. Yes. So, for someone who'd received so many rejects, was there the temptation to really just say, "Hey, I've gotten a full ride. Let's just take it and kind of not worry about it because I've done enough." There's just been so much struggle.
From the starting moment, Georgia Tech was always my dream school, has always been my dream school, and I want to get it. So until I have the clear decision from multiple schools, I haven't given acceptance letter to any of the schools.
Hmm.
I was still waiting for it, asking the Georgia Tech and ASU to provide me with the decisions so that I can make a comprehensive decision.
Okay.
So even though a part in me says like accept it, if I lose it, I may not get enough. So,
Hmm.
but uh, something pushed me like let's just wait for all the decisions and just get to know like where can I get an acceptance letter.
But I don't know about other people who are here who are listening to this, but I can tell you, as human, there's a strong human tendency to, after so much struggle, to really just take on and
Yeah,
essentially just move on. But
there was very much big struggle, and I was about to accept the offers within the one day. And but if I haven't been invited for a second round interview, I would definitely have accepted the Texas A&M or Michigan State University by end April. But as I was called for a second round interview, there was a little bit of hope in me that I might get some acceptance, because it's rare to call for a second round interview, that too in a round three application. So they were somewhat interested in it. It signals like Georgia Tech is somewhat interested in me.
tell me one thing. Did you have in terms of your profile, did you have like any incredible social work or any other extracurricular activities that you say makes you stand out?
Uh, Nothing extraordinary, just a normal voluntary participation with
Such
an
as?
NGO. Uh, there is in our BHL there is an organization called Helping Hands, where we will do some voluntary activities and some activities for people, school kids around BHL. So those kinds of voluntary activities that I used to do. And my friend used to participate in some kind of voluntary activities, going to villages and helping those kinds of people. I used to participate along with him, go to the villages, understand their problems, and do some kind of help that I can provide to them.
When you got these many scholarships after so many rejections, what was your family's reaction?
They were very happy because I'm happy.
Okay.
And I said like they also don't need to take a loan for my studies, and they were incredible happy.
So were they willing to take a role? Were they all ready to take a loan if you?
They were initially worried like they might have to take a loan, or they might need to spend an additional amount on my studies, but my full scholarship provided them with extreme happiness.
Okay. Okay. Let's talk about Georgia Tech and so Georgia Tech. How did you then you get to the school and so one of the biggest things is to get that first internship, and you struggled a lot to get that first internship, right? Can you talk about narrate that journey, talk about that struggle, and then what character traits did that, or rather what did it tell you about finding a job?
Yeah, the first struggle that I faced was improving my communication. So when I first landed in US, 9 out of 10 people were not able to understand my English. My accent was completely different, and they said like they are not able to get me. So with the help of my career coaching, and there is one thing called leadership coaching, I utilized those two resources and tried to
The
dive.
school offered those resources.
Yeah, my school offered those resources,
Okay.
and I tried to diagnose. Everyone told me like improve your communication, and it was something very vague to me what I need to improve. Through these coaching resources, I break down my communication into four parts, like the pace, the rhythm, the structure, and the syllable stressing. I created my own metrics for it, and I tracked improvement every day. I practiced every day, and after 3 4 months, now at least 8 out of 10 people are able to understand my communication, and they were able to get what I'm trying to say. It was my first struggle, and my
So
second struggle.
you're a metrics driven guy. That's the fact that 9 out of 10 couldn't, and you're putting those numbers in. Tell me metrics, and we talked about this earlier. And
Yeah,
you created a spreadsheet around each of the
yeah,
four metrics, and you would track it. Do you want
yeah,
to elaborate a bit more on that process as well?
yeah. For example, like if when I say about pace,
Hmm.
my career coach said like I'm speaking at a very fast pace, so he's not able to understand me. So picking at his fast pace means what the metric says, like how many words I'm speaking in a minute. So generally, the Microsoft PowerPoint has one thing called practice mode, where when you practice something, it will say like how many words are you speaking per minute.
Okay.
and you can have that very good metric of some 80 to 100 words per minute, so that you are not speaking very fast.
And so that words per minute actually records your voice, it deciphers it, and that's how it determines.
Yeah, yeah. The second one is called structure. Like whenever I'm speaking to a person, I used to provide more context in the starting, and I used to ask a question at the last. After listening to all my sentence, the other person seems quite bit lost. So I changed the structure, like I asked the question up front and provided the context in the back end. So they got what I'm trying to say, and the context is just adding it up.
Okay, so this is very important, and I completely agree with that second one. So when I came to this country, I would really just do the same thing. I would make my claim at the end. I would just provide facts or the or the explanations up front. When someone's listening, they won't understand what am I trying to explain, because my claim's towards the end. So essentially, put the claim up front and then provide supporting evidence to prove that claim is essentially a more directed way of doing things, or I'd say even a more American way of doing things is what I would say.
Yeah, the other things were rhythm. Generally, US speakers have a different rhythm, and I used to speak in a different rhythm. It's a quite difficult for non-native speakers, which I'm still trying to improve.
Okay. Okay. So I think, but one thing this your journey shows is that you might not have gone to what we call as a public school in India, or a private school, which really is a private school overall. You might not have had a convent education, but it's there is, even at 26 27, you can improve your spoken English considerably, just in a few months, in a span of a few months or so.
Yeah, yeah. I studied in a government university and working in a government organization, where most of the spoken communication is mostly in Hindi or in my state language, which is Telugu. I rarely used to speak in English with other people, so I haven't developed that kind of communication skill.
Okay, that's true. There's an interesting question. I think it's a relevant question that saw me, as I said, how much, what was your living expense, and how did you
Uh, would you please say the question again?
during the 2 years? I'm going to just show this question on the screen.
Mm.
You can see the question. During these 2 years, what were your living expenses, and did you earn that money, or?
Yeah, it was completely out of my pocket savings. For 7 years, I saved money for my living, and for living expenses, it vary across location in US. If you are asking for Atlanta location, the living expenses for 2 years might be around some 15 to 18 lakhs, depending upon your living style.
Well, you did make money during your internship too, so that would have helped
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So that's actually a considerable amount of money these days. So let's talk about the struggles. So you were talking about the struggles. So spoken English is one struggle. You also you had a lot of struggles to get that first internship. What were those?
Yeah, and here the recruiting cycle and the recruiting process is completely different. Each company has its own process. You need to understand the process, and the most important thing is, for majority of the companies, you need to have an internal advocate for you in that company. When I means an advocate, it's not something like a lawyer. It's just like a person who is willing to push your application up ahead for an interview and final selection.
Okay.
So getting that connection is very much critical. Also, getting an interview is also very critical. So I started like reaching out to companies that were coming to Georgia Tech, also the companies where I am interested, and the companies that were posting jobs. So I was like randomly reaching out to multiple people, uh, asking for them for a 15-minute talk and connecting with them, asking them questions, connecting with them on a personal basis, and just trying to network. So I networked with a lot of people from August till February,
Okay.
and
That's your first year, by the way. August
yeah,
to February during your first year.
yeah, during my first year. And by the end of February, I was almost, so I applied to 100. I made more than 100 applications. I got interviews from 8 of those applications,
Hmm.
and I went into final round for 4 of those applications.
Mhm.
And when I'm expecting an offer from all the 4 of them, then COVID hit, and
Hmm.
all those 4 applications said like they are not going to conduct internships, or they're happy with what the persons they have selected, and they are not going to extend any further offers.
Mhm.
So it was like a sad and disappointing moment for me.
So you're in the US, you've used your savings to live there, although you're not paying any money, but still, internships coming, and internship is a pathway towards your job, and you have no internship into your in
Yeah,
February.
by end of April, it was like I was back to square one. All my resources, all my hard work has been not completely useful, and I don't have any internship at that point.
Were your batchmates in the same boat?
Yeah,
Were your batchmates in the
some
same?
people got internships, and those organizations are going to conduct internships.
Mhm.
And the at that point, one of my friends said like he had 2 internships, but he's going to reject one internship. And I asked me to refer me to him. He referred me. They called me for an interview, and they provided me an internship during the last month of May.
Which is right in June is when you start working anyway.
Yeah, most people have started their internships in mid-May. So when everyone has started their internships, I was still looking for an internship,
Okay.
and it was the most disappointing moment. I was crying for a few days, like, oh, where am I right now, and what should I do?
Mhm.
And I got an internship in May last week. But as soon as I start my internship, I know like I'm not going to get a full time offer there
They told you it was a T-Mobile. They told you you're not gonna with Sprint, right? Sorry, you said Sprint.
with Sprint. Yeah, because they're going through some kind of restructuring, and they might not be able to confirm anything right now,
Hmm.
which in a soft sense made to me like there can't be no full time offer.
Yeah, you're gonna make some money. You're gonna get some work experience. This is not where you're gonna get a job.
Yeah.
Okay. So then what happened?
So then I thought like, okay, I have so much pain in me, and I try to convert my pain into my desire for performing better or to practice better. So uh, I recalled my experiences during my GMAT. I was in the same kind of boat right now. So I then devised a clear strategy. When everyone was doing internship, I started my preparation for fall
Mhm.
recruiting. So what I followed a clear strategy right now. I was not applying to all the universities.
Mhm.
First statistic that I looked up is like I applied to 100 universities, got 8 interviews, and got to final round for 4 interviews.
100 companies, you mean to say, not
Yeah,
university.
sorry, 100 companies.
Yes.
So the bottleneck for me is getting an interview call.
Mhm.
Once I get an interview call, my conversion rate is very high. So what should I do to get a interview call?
Because that was 50% conversion, 8 to 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and when I was talking to my seniors, most people said like having a person who will support you in the back end of a company is very much crucial
So
to get
that
an initial.
that was the advocate you were talking about.
Yeah, that was the advocate.
Hmm.
So I firstly extracted the database for my university.
Mhm.
Where have the recent graduates gone to?
Okay.
Where they were working? And I connected with all the companies that I am very much interested in, and I start networking.
Okay.
For each company, I connected to almost 6 to 7 people to find one advocate.
Okay. So step one, get the list of interested companies. Step two, connect with multiple people at those interested companies and make sure you get one person who really likes you.
Yeah, you need to you can connect with as many people, but just find that one person who can push you through.
Okay. All
Also, those universities or those companies are the companies that have been visiting Georgia Tech and that are likely to visit Georgia Tech this fall.
got it. So they should be the ones who actually have openings or have a placement cycle every year.
Yeah, yeah,
And they like to hire from Georgia Tech. There is already that background. Okay.
Yeah, and when I'm connecting with all the people, those people were very friendly, and they said like, connect with this person, he's very likely to make a critical decision for the interview stage. So I connected with those people, I networked with them, I even had my resume reviewed by them,
Hmm.
so they all know my names.
Okay.
And I was expecting to get an interview
Oh,
call
these are
from.
the advocates in these companies, and they
Yeah,
you already had your resume even before a potential job from these companies came out.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So the cycle happens like that. Those people will again come to Georgia Tech in fall,
Hmm.
and they will ask us to submit our resumes.
Hmm.
They will review their resumes and push some resumes for an interview call with their managers.
Okay.
So before all that cycle happened, I even had my resume reviewed by them, and they all know me very well that I'm a good candidate for that company, and they are very much willing to push me for an interview.
So by doing that, you actually reduce their risk of deciding, okay, am I going to hire someone based on a 30-minute interview or an hour-long interview, or am I going to hire someone based on an interaction over a month? And I know that person very well now because I've interacted with him or her over this longer period.
Yeah, yeah. So they will come for recruitment during the month of September, October. But I reached out them in June, July, and I made all those contacts. So when there is a job posting, there might be around 50 to 60 people reaching out to them.
Hmm.
But in the month of July, I was the only person who was reaching out to them. So they have a genuine interest and they can spare their time to talk to me.
Hmm.
And I was expecting an interview call from 4 people.
Hmm.
At the same time, I also applied through Amazon. Amazon has a different kind of recruiting process. It is completely unbiased and you don't need to have an internal advocate.
Got it.
You just need to know their process and their culture.
Hmm.
When I said about my mentor coaching, generally at Georgia Tech, a first year student will be paid with a second year student
Hmm.
for their career development or any kind of development. My mentor is a person who also got into Amazon Pathways program.
Okay.
So he provided me on insights on uh, how does the assessment goes and what are the things I need to know about the company. Also, I have my friends who did their internship in Amazon, so they provided me their cultural insights,
Hmm.
and those insights helped me to do well on the assessment. And once the assessment is done, they called me for an interview.
Got it.
Amazon interview is like 45 minutes, 45 minutes back to back interviews,
Hmm.
and you need to be have a very strong knowledge on your stories and on your professional experience,
Okay.
because they will discuss each question and answer for 30 minutes. So if it's a hour long interview, at most they will discuss two of the behavioral questions.
Okay.
And after going to that interview and they provided me an offer, it was the happiest moment.
So let's go back. What is a behavioral question?
They said like, for example, tell me about a time when you did a mistake and how did you react.
So an
like
MBA-like question then.
like same questions that you might have answered during your MBA application.
Hmm.
But while interviewing with Amazon, when you answer a question, they will ask follow-up questions, maybe
Oh, it's
10,
a
maybe
45-minute
15.
long interview, not a 5 minute.
Yeah, it's four back-to-back 45-hour long interview.
Okay. Okay. You were saying, sorry, I cut you.
No, no, no. Yeah,
You think it was
uh,
the happiest moment in your life?
yeah. It was the happiest moment in my life because I dreamt 5 years before like I need to work at Amazon or Apple in operations kind of role,
Hmm.
and after 5 years, I got the opportunity that I will be going into Amazon.
Managing 200 people in a warehouse, going through 4 rotations, and then if you do well, graduating to the position of a director. That's
Yeah,
incredible. So, in your story is one of what I call as blessing in disguise, and I can count a few instances of the same. And this is a point where I think we can take questions and go there. Um, so your first application cycle when you applied with the 680, had you gotten an acceptance with a partial scholarship, you probably would have been tempted to take it. right? You did not get an admit in that first one. It'll push you towards taking the GMAT again. You got a 720, multiple full rides.
Yeah,
There. Now, of course, your persistence, your the fact that you were very focused on where you wanted to go had a huge part to it. But really, when you work hard, it just shows there are certain things that happen which you may not have a larger, grander scheme towards them, but they ultimately the hard work pays off with regards to you improving your communication skills, with regards to you improving your networking skills. Even the fact that at Sprint, they told you were not going to get a job there, helped you prepare for this. It was a blessing in disguise when you look at it in hindsight, right?
yeah. Uh, I can completely recall like when I got my 680 score and when I haven't got any admits from B schools, I was disappointed like why it's happening to me.
Mm.
But later, an year after, when I got 720 GMAT score and I got four full admits, I was very happy. Like those kind of failures is like a hard blow on your face. But I always keep thinking like the hard blows of iron make a rusty steel into a sharp sword.
That
So
that's very well said. Hard blows on iron make a rusty steel into of iron made a rusty steel into a sharp sword. Yes, very well
yeah,
said.
I always kept thinking about it like those failures is like hard slap on my face, but they helped me to improve my English, improve my communication, improve my personal character also. And now in future whenever I get a rejection, I don't feel it is like a disappointment. I have always felt like there is some kind of improvement that should be definitely made at my end.
And I completely agree with you because I personally have had, I'm not not been tested in the same manner as you've been, but I remember when I got my first job in my undergrad in India. um, I got this job and in a place where I didn't want to work, by the way. But then what it meant was I couldn't sit again in the placement cycle, so I go there this and to meet folks at City Corp Overseas, which is where I got my first job. And they say, hey, there are only two ways you can get out of this job. One is you fail your final year. The second is if you're colorblind. And I had an inclination that I am colorblind, but I did not know that. So I'm like, okay, I can't sit again in the placement cycle, and most likely I'm going to lose this job. So that made me prepare for gate. That kind of pushed me. It's like there's no way that I can do anything. I have to prepare for gate. So I prepared for gate. I was one of the gate toppers, which allowed me to actually get a job with Nokia over there. But at that time, I was like, man, I'm screwed. Because there's no way out. But when you think about it, as long as you don't give up, there are bigger things that you can achieve.
Yeah. There is always a life quote that I don't know where I heard, but from my high school, it was my favorite quote.
Hmm.
It's like to win the game, you must be in the game.
Hmm.
So never give up. It's my thing. Then that fuels me every day.
And I think always have a plan. In your case, uh, 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 you had a plan. You said, I'm not going to worry about tier one schools, and then you made clear choices as you were doing. There's this question: Georgia Tech is not STEM. How did you manage STEM? You want to talk about the STEM aspect?
Georgia Tech MBA program is not STEM, but the beautiful thing is you can add another MS degree with it.
Hmm.
So I am pursuing two degrees, MBA and MS in data science. It made me STEM. Not only data science, Georgia Tech has beautiful courses like you can combine computer science, any engineering that you can think of. Some exciting degrees are like supply chain engineering
Hmm.
and quantitative computational finance and any engineering degree that you can think of. Georgia Tech provides it, and it can make your whole study STEM.
Okay, that's very well. I think one of the other things which we did not talk about during the interview, but we did talk about prior to this was you did about six, I would call it internships at practical experiences during your MBA. Can you talk about how you manage six when most people have difficulty managing two?
Yeah, it's like Georgia Tech offers wonderful practical experiences. Like instead of taking a classroom-based course, I can take a practical course. It's a semester-long course, and I will be partnered with a company. The company will give me a problem statement, and I will be working with a team and solving the problem statement and making a presentation. So I took as many practical courses as possible so that I can have the experience of working in the US, understanding the business culture, interacting with clients, and how the things and communications go in US. So it kind of provided me the practical experience of working in US right before my internships.
And so you worked with Bank of America, NCR, Ericsson. I'm looking at your LinkedIn, Richard L.
Yeah,
Bergmark Investment Foundation, and then T-Mobile slash Sprint.
T-Mobile and Richard Bergmore were my actual internships, and the Bank of America, NCR, and Ericsson were all my practical experiences.
Okay, okay, that's wonderful.
And you will also do a wonderful project, and sometimes your interviewer might be interested in those projects. So you can happily discuss your practical experiences and project during your interviews.
I completely agree. When that was the case with me, I had similar to you. I think I was one of the few students when I was doing my MBA. I had about 6 different internships over there. Now, a couple of them were like the practical experiences. I actually had 4 internships during my second year.
Wow.
And I kind of really had foregone. So I kind of created my own courses for credits. So I had a full ride too. So I said, I'm not paying for it. Let me just convert those internships to credits. I actually made money during those internships.
Wow.
But you're right. As you go into the interview questions are not so much about the courses you took at school. They're about what you delivered during those internships, and that's what differentiates you. Why? Because the other MBA guy who they're interviewing is not likely to have such internships. He's not likely to have that variety of experience that you would have, and then that kind of gives you a leg up over there.
Yeah.
So we have another question. Atlanta and Georgia Tech, the kind of companies that exist, the culture, the cost of living. Can you shed some light? Would you be working in Atlanta, by the way?
I haven't got my location yet. Atlanta is one of my top choice.
Okay, but can you then shed some light about the kind of job opportunities, the kind of companies that are there in Atlanta? And
Atlanta is mostly known for its tech companies and consulting firms. Right now, where Georgia Tech is and where I am staying, if I move just 5 blocks away, I will walk across Google, Microsoft, the top big four consulting firms, BCG, McKinsey, Bain, and there were many companies like Salesforce, Cisco, and
that's
big
like Silicon
companies.
Valley. That's like Silicon Valley in many ways. The big
Yeah,
aspect of Silicon Valley. Okay.
yeah, like Atlanta is a big city, and there were multiple opportunities for tech companies and consulting firms.
Okay.
And cost of living will be moderately. It's not a very high when you compare it with like Bay Area or Seattle.
Let me ask this brutal question. How much rent do you pay?
My rent is around for one bedroom. It's $1,300.
Oh, that's very good. That's actually very good. And you live close to school.
Yeah, I live within 3 to 4 minutes of walking distance.
Wow, that's very good. That's
And we are at the downtown midtown of Atlanta, the heart of Atlanta.
the heart of Atlanta. Yeah. So the cost of living cost of living is primarily defined by your cost of your rent. Food's kind of the same pretty much everywhere in the U.S. So yeah, that's very good. I would say. I consider Phoenix to be one of the cheapest places to live in, and Phoenix for a 1 bedroom next to ASU is going to be about $900 to $1,000. So yeah, $1,300 is pretty good that way. Okay. All right, guys. If there are no other questions, then thank you very much, Krishna, for joining me today. And this is a fabulous session. I learned a lot about how your struggles and how you went about doing this. And I'm sure it's going to be very beneficial to those who've attended this and those who are going to watch the recorded version of it. Thank you very much. And again, for those of you who are still looking to ace the GMAT, we have a webinar this weekend on how to build your study plan. Also, we did a webinar recently on GMAT RC, which is keyword, and a refined version of the same webinar that Krishna attended. So you can watch the recording of the same using the link that is there. All right.
Yeah.
with that, thank you very much, Krishna, and good luck.
Thank you all. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.